Rain tapped softly against the small bedroom window as David sat on the edge of the bed, tying Nora's worn-out shoelaces. The little girl watched him with her wide, sleepy eyes, her tiny hands gripping her favorite stuffed rabbit. She was only 4, too young to understand why her mother no longer kissed her goodnight, too innocent to grasp how their warm home had turned into a quiet shelter lined with longing. David forced a smile. "Ready for school, sunshine?" Nora nodded, brushing her tangled hair back. "Will Mama come today?" The question stabbed him like it always did. He swallowed hard. "Not today, sweetheart, but Daddy's here, okay? Always." 2 years had passed, but the pain still lived beneath his ribs like a stone he could never put down. His wife, Liana, had walked out one winter morning, leaving nothing but a cold letter on the kitchen counter. "I can't do this. I'm not meant for this life. Don't look for me." David had stood there for hours, staring at the handwriting, feeling the world collapse around him. He was only 26 then, young, hopeful, and newly married. He had sworn he'd give her everything he never had growing up. But she wanted a life that didn't include responsibility, didn't include a child's demands, and didn't include him. Now, his days were a loop: care, cook, clean, comfort, sleep, repeat. No dreams, no plans, only survival. But for Nora, he pretended everything was still beautiful. The village where they lived was kind, yet crushing. People talked, they whispered, they judged. Some pitied him, others blamed him. He must have done something, they said. A woman doesn't just leave. David learned to ignore them, though each word chipped away at him quietly. Their mornings were always rushed. David walked Nora to the small school across the hill, her tiny hands swinging in his. She hummed every step of the way, unaware of the storm inside her father. When they reached the gate, she hugged him tightly, pressing her soft cheek to his rough one. "Bye, Daddy. I'll wait for you. Don't come late." Her words were so full of trust that he couldn't help but smile. "Never, baby. I'll always come back to you." When Nora disappeared into the colorful building, David's smile faded. He turned toward the factory where he worked, a place that smelled of steel, grease, and exhaustion. Machines roared all day, drowning thought, drowning fear, drowning loneliness. He clocked in, wiped sweat from his forehead, and got to work. For hours, he lifted heavy crates, tightened bolts, cleaned engines, and ignored the ache in his back. His coworkers joked and smirked whenever they saw him. "Look, the abandoned husband is here. Poor guy. Wife ran away. Couldn't keep her happy. Maybe she found someone better." The words were knives disguised as jokes. David never responded. He had learned silence was stronger than anger. Anger only made him break inside. Silence helped him survive. At lunchtime, he sat alone under the tree behind the factory, opening a small metal box filled with rice and curry he cooked at dawn. He ate quietly, listening to the wind blow past him. Somewhere far away, he imagined Nora laughing in class, her innocence untouched by the weight he carried. But every day wasn't the same. Some days were unbearable. That afternoon, while he was tightening a loose chain on a conveyor belt, his manager approached him with a stern face. "David, your output is dropping. Again, I'm trying my best, sir. Try doesn't pay bills. Your shift is being reduced starting next week." David's heart sank. A reduced shift meant reduced pay. Reduced pay meant reduced meals, reduced security, reduced everything. But he nodded, swallowing his fear. "Yes, sir. I understand." After work, he jogged toward Nora's school as fast as he could. She was waiting at the gate, feet tapping, eyes scanning every face. The moment she saw him, she ran into his arms. "You came," she giggled. "Of course," he said, kissing her forehead. "You're my whole world." That evening, they sat together on the floor, eating dinner. Nora told him stories about a little boy who tried to hide a frog in his lunchbox, and David laughed more than he had in months. Her laughter was a light he clung to, a fire keeping him warm. But nights were different. Nights exposed the truth. After tucking her into bed, David stepped outside under the quiet sky. He stared up at the moon, as if expecting answers to fall from it. "Why wasn't I enough?" he whispered. Why wasn't Nora enough for her? A sharp pain pressed behind his eyes. He wiped the tears before they could fall. A father couldn't afford to break. Just as he was about to go inside, he noticed something tucked in the mailbox. A letter. His breath caught. He recognized the handwriting instantly. Liana. His fingers trembled as he opened the envelope under the dim, yellow streetlight. "I heard someone say Nora looks like me. I wanted to see her. I will come soon." Only one line. Cold, detached, empty. David felt the old wound crack open again. He pressed the paper against his chest as if trying to stop the bleeding inside. "Why now?" he whispered. "Why? After all this time?" The wind blew softly, but nothing answered. He walked back inside and looked at Nora sleeping peacefully, his little girl, his only love, his reason to breathe. He vowed silently that no one, not even the woman who left, would take her away. He didn't know that this letter was the beginning of a storm that would test him, break him, strengthen him, and transform him into someone he was never allowed to be before. The next morning arrived with an uneasy stillness. David barely slept, replaying the short letter again and again in his mind. Each time he imagined Liana returning, his chest tightened. What if she tried to take Nora? What if she came only to rip open the life he had worked so hard to hold together? He forced himself to focus on the present, helping Nora put on her small sweater before school. She lifted her arms like a little bird, smiling as he slipped the sleeves over her hands. "Daddy, you look tired," she said, tilting her head. "I'm okay," he whispered, brushing her hair gently. "Just thinking a lot about Mama," she asked, her voice soft. David froze. "Why do you say that, baby?" "I dreamt she was calling me," Nora said, pointing to her heart, "but I don't know if I was happy or sad." There were moments when David felt like fate was listening too closely. He lifted her into his arms. "No matter who comes or goes," he said, holding her tightly, "Daddy will always keep you safe." She hugged his neck with her tiny arms, and something inside him settled only for a moment. At the school gate, David kissed her forehead and watched her run toward her classroom. He lingered longer than usual, his mind still flickering with questions that had no answers. Work was heavy that day. Maybe it was because of the letter, or maybe fate was pulling strings too aggressively. But nothing felt normal. The machines clanged louder, the factory heat pressed harder, and even the air carried a strange weight. During lunch, David opened the same metal box he used every day and sat beneath the tree. Before he could take a bite, his coworker Sam approached him. "You good, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." David rubbed his forehead. "Close enough?" Sam sat beside him. He was older, calmer, and one of the few people who never mocked David. "You got trouble coming?" David exhaled slowly. "My wife Liana? She sent a letter. After 2 years," Sam whistled softly. "And what does she want?" "She didn't say. Just that she might come to see Nora." Sam leaned back against the tree. "People who leave rarely return to fix anything. They come back to take something." David's jaw tightened. "She won't take my girl." Sam looked at him with a mixture of pity and respect. "Then prepare yourself. Broken people always return with broken intentions." David said nothing. The truth was already burning inside him. That evening clouds gathered thick over the village. David hurried to Nora's school before the rain could fall. But when he arrived, he noticed the teacher standing with a worried expression. "Mr. David?" she called out. His heart raced. "Is Nora okay?" "She's inside." "But there was a woman earlier," the teacher said, voice hesitant. "A woman asking about her." David's blood froze. What did she look like? Tall, fair, long black coat? She didn't give her name, but the moment we asked for ID, she left quickly. It was her. It had to be. David rushed into the classroom, and Nora's eyes brightened when she saw him. She ran into his arms, unaware of the fear gripping him. "Daddy, I drew a picture for you," she said, handing him a paper with 2 stick figures holding hands. He lifted her gently. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful." But even as he said it, he scanned the surroundings, checking every face, every corner, every shadow. On the walk home, he held Nora's hand tighter than usual. The wind blew fiercely, and the sky began to pour, drenching them within seconds. Nora giggled and stuck her tongue out to taste the raindrops, while David hurried them along, adrenaline rising in his veins. Inside the house, he dried her with a towel, sat beside her as she ate warm soup, and kept glancing at the windows like a man expecting danger. When she finally slept, David stepped outside again. The village felt eerie under the silver rain. Puddles reflected his worried eyes as he stood beneath the dim, streaky stash. Street. Then he noticed something on the ground near the gate. A footprint, small, thin, and fresh. He scanned the darkness. At the far end of the road, a silhouette stood watching. A woman still silent, half hidden beneath an umbrella. David's breath caught. He whispered, though she was too far to hear. The figure turned slowly, as if sensing his voice through the rain, and for a moment, he saw her face sharp, emotionless. Familiar. And then she walked away into the storm without a word. David stood trembling. Rage, grief, fear, and love collided inside him like a storm of their own. Why was she back? What did she want? Why now? He rushed inside, locked the doors, and checked every window. Nora slept peacefully. Unaware of the battle forming outside her small world, David sat beside her bed and whispered to the silent room. "I won't let her hurt you again. I don't care what I have to become, but I won't lose you." The rain outside roared like applause to a tragedy still unfolding, and somewhere in that darkness, Liana was walking away with a purpose David wasn't ready to face. Not yet. But soon? The next morning arrived with an overwhelming heaviness, the kind that seeped into the air and made everything feel slower, sharper, and more dangerous. David woke long before dawn, sitting silently at the kitchen table with a cold cup of tea in his hands. He barely blinked, staring at the door as if expecting someone to walk through it. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every shift of the wind scraped against the windows like fingernails, and every breath reminded him that Liana was back. He didn't wake Nora until the sun had risen. When she came rubbing her eyes, she looked at him for a long moment, noticing the tension in his shoulders. "Daddy, did something happen?" He knelt in front of her. "Nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart. Daddy's here, always." But children were strange. They sensed storms in the hearts of adults long before they erupted. "Did Mama come back?" she asked softly. The question cut deeper than she knew. David swallowed. She came near the school yesterday. Nora's eyes widened. Did she want to see me? I don't know yet, he said honestly. But remember, no matter who comes, you're safe with me. Her small fingers tightened around his dot at school. David didn't leave the gate until every single child was inside. His eyes scanned every direction. No dark coat, no thin outline, no Liana. But absence didn't bring relief, brought dread. By the time David walked to the factory, his mind spun with 100 worst-case scenarios. He tried to work, but his hands shook. At lunch, Sam approached him again. Still nothing. Sam asked. She came last night, David whispered. Here, at my house? Watching. Sam exhaled slowly. That means she wants something. Have you spoken to the police? David shook his head. They'll say she's the mother. They won't listen to anything else. Then you need proof she's unstable, Sam said firmly. Something to protect yourself. Those words lingered like a warning and a strategy at the same time. When David returned home later that day, he found something taped to the front door. Just a single photograph, a picture of Nora taken from a distance at her school gate. David's heart turned to stone. His breathing stopped. His hands trembled violently as he peeled the photograph away from the wood. Not a message, not a threat, a promise. He stormed inside, slammed the door, locked it twice, then rushed to check every room. Only after he made sure Nora was safe. Drawing pictures on the floor with crayons did he allow himself to crumble inside. Nora lifted her face. Daddy, look, I drew us holding balloons. He forced a smile, but tears burned behind his eyes. He walked over, sat beside her, and pulled her gently into his arms. She hugged him back with all the innocence of someone who didn't yet understand how cruel the world could be. That night, David placed a chair against the door, kept the lights dim, and sat awake with his phone in his hand, waiting for anything to happen. Hours passed. The village grew silent. Then, around midnight, he heard a knock. Not loud, not frantic, just a slow, deliberate tap. He froze. Another knock, then silence. He stepped toward the door, each footstep a battle. His hands shook as he reached for the peephole. He looked, and the world stopped. Liana stood outside, drenched in rain, hair sticking to her face, eyes dark and unreadable. She looked older, thinner, exhausted, like someone dragged through life by invisible chains. But her expression wasn't apologetic. It was calculating. David's chest tightened with 100 conflicting emotions: rage, confusion, fear, longing, hatred. What do you want? He whispered through the door. Her voice was soft but cold. To see my daughter. After 2 years? He snapped. After abandoning her? I didn't abandon her, she said. I escaped. From what? From the people who wanted to destroy both of us, she whispered. Open the door, David. Everything inside him screamed no. I won't let you near her, he said. Liana's expression hardened. You don't understand the danger. They'll come for her too. David stepped back. Who? But she didn't answer. Instead, she leaned closer until her voice was barely audible. They're watching us right now. A chill ran through David's spine. He instinctively looked down the road, but saw nothing except shadows. Leave, David whispered, before I call the police. Liana blinked slowly, like someone who expected this. You think the police can stop them? Or stop me? Her smile was faint, broken, sinister. I'll come back, she said, turning away. Soon? And next time. You won't be able to stop me. She disappeared down the dark street, swallowed by the night. David locked the door so hard the frame rattled. He sank to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. Somewhere upstairs, Nora stirred in her sleep, calling softly for him. He wiped his face and forced himself to stand. One step at a time, he climbed the stairs and slipped into her room. He lay beside her, holding her small body against his chest. Her breathing steadied him. Her warmth reminded him why he had to fight. Her innocence gave him courage he didn't know he still had. He whispered into her hair, I'll protect you from your mother. I'll protect you from everyone. But deep inside, a terrifying truth began to grow. Liana wasn't alone. She wasn't acting on impulse. She was following a plan, one he didn't understand yet. And the moment he realized that, the true danger began. The morning after Liana's visit was the first sunrise David had ever feared. Instead of comforting warmth, the golden light only made every shadow sharper, every sound louder, every breath heavier. David barely slept, holding Nora in his arms until the first birds began to sing outside. When Nora woke up, she immediately noticed the tiredness in his face. Daddy, did Mama come again? He hesitated. Children deserved truth, but not the kind that poisoned their innocence. No, he said softly, but she might try. And I need you to listen to me today, okay? You stay close to your teacher. Don't go anywhere alone. If anyone calls your name, you go straight inside the building. Understand? Nora nodded, fear flickering behind her eyes. At the school gate, David knelt and kissed her forehead, trying to hold his voice steady. I love you more than everything, you remember that? I love you more, Daddy, she whispered. He watched her walk into the school, her small pink backpack bouncing on her shoulders. She turned once to wave, and he waved back with a trembling hand. Then his eyes locked on a car parked across the road. Dark-tinted windows, engine quietly running. Something inside him snapped. He marched across the street and approached the car, but it slowly pulled away before he reached it. No license plate, no glimpse of the driver. His heart pounded violently. Liana wasn't threatening. She was preparing with shaking hands. He called Sam and asked him to watch the school. Sam didn't ask questions. He heard the fear in David's voice and agreed instantly. David rushed home, searching for anything that might explain what Liana meant last night. They're watching us. They'll come for her too. Every drawer, every old file, every memory he had locked away for 2 years resurfaced. That was when he found the old envelope Liana left behind the night she disappeared. Back then, he never opened it. Anger kept him from wanting answers. But now his hands tore it open. Inside were 2 things: a torn ID card from a federal investigative unit, and a note written in shaky handwriting. If they find me, they'll take Nora. I have to disappear to keep her safe. The card wasn't hers. The name was unfamiliar, but the badge number was real. David felt the floor tilt beneath him. 2 years of pain cracked open into something colder, fear mixed with doubt. Been telling the truth? Had she left to protect Nora? Had he misjudged everything? Before he could process the storm unraveling in his chest, his phone rang. Sam. His voice was breathless. David, you need to get here now. Something's wrong. David didn't ask questions. He ran. When he reached the school, chaos had already erupted. Teachers were shouting, students crying, police gathering, and Sam stood in the middle of it all, pale as a ghost. She came, Sam whispered. Liana. She came right into the schoolyard and tried to take Nora. She said she was her mother and she had every right. The teachers stopped her just in time. David's heart plummeted. Where's Nora? With the principal. She's scared, but she's okay. Relief hit him so hard he had to steady himself against the wall. But then the police officer approached. Sir, your wife claims she left due to a dangerous situation involving a federal agent. We need to speak to both of you. David shook his head, still breathless. I'm not letting her near my daughter. She's unstable. That's not for you to decide anymore, the officer replied carefully. And if there's a threat, your daughter might be at risk. David's world began spinning. Everything he thought he knew was shattering. His heart wanted to protect Nora from Liana, but a seed of doubt grew inside him. What if Liana wasn't the danger? What if someone else was? What if the car, the photo, the knuckle of it belonged to a threat bigger than her? He took Nora home despite the police wanting statements. He locked every door, closed every curtain, and held his trembling daughter close. She rested her head on his chest, unaware of the war erupting around her life. Hours later, someone knocked again. Slow, soft, identical to before. But this time, David looked through the peephole and saw not Liana, but 2 men in suits. Professional, clean-cut, dead serious. David Miller, one asked. Yes, David replied cautiously. We're here about Liana. His blood ran cold. Where is she? She's safe, the agent said. But you and your daughter are not. David opened the door slightly, hesitation battling terror. Tell me everything. They stepped inside and spoke in low, grave voices. Liana had been part of an undercover investigation, exposing a ring of officials trafficking sensitive daytime children from vulnerable families. When her identity was compromised, she was forced to flee or be killed. She kept her distance from David and Nora to protect them, but when she learned the group was active in their region again, she returned, not to take Nora but to save her. David's knees nearly gave out. She tried to warn you, the agent said. David's voice cracked. I thought she abandoned us. The older agent shook his head. She sacrificed everything for you. A weight like thunder collapsed inside David's chest. Guilt, regret, love, and agony all at once. Where is she now? David whispered. Before the agents could answer, the house lights flickered, then went dark. Outside, engines growled. Doors slammed. Footsteps approached. The younger agent rushed to the window and swore under his breath. They found us. Get your daughter now. David grabbed Nora barefoot, terrified, and held her as the agents drew their weapons. Nora cried into his shirt, shaking uncontrollably. Daddy, what's happening? Hold tight, sweetheart. Daddy's here. The front door rattled violently. Voices shouted outside. The agents yelled for David to run to the back door, but before he could, gunshots exploded. The door burst open, and Liana herself stormed in from the side entrance. Eyes blazing, breath uneven, holding the same badge she found earlier. David, give me Nora, she screamed. For a second, he froze. Then he handed their daughter to the woman he once feared, but now finally understood. Liana shielded Nora with her body while the agents fought off the attackers. The house filled with chaos, screams, shots, shattering glass. David stayed close to Nora, grabbing whatever he could to protect them. In the middle of the chaos, Liana touched David's face for the first time in 2 years. I love you, she whispered tremblingly. Both of you. I never stopped. He stared at her, heart collapsing. I'm sorry I didn't know. I didn't trust you. You didn't know the truth, she said softly, but you protected her. That's all that mattered. A grenade-like flash blasted through the room, shaking the walls. Liana pushed David and Nora behind a heavy cabinet and threw herself in front of them. Debris rained down. Smoke filled the air. Minutes felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, the attackers were down, or fleeing. The agents were calling for backup and Liana collapsed on the floor. David fell beside her, shaking her shoulders. Liana, stay with me. Please, please. She opened her eyes slowly. Nora sobbed, clinging to her mother for the first time since she was a toddler. Mommy, don't go, she cried. Liana smiled through the pain. Nora, you're safe now. That's all I ever wanted. David's tears dripped onto her hands. We can start over, please. We can still fix everything. Liana cupped his face weakly. Take care of her. Teach her to be brave. Teach her to forgive. No, he whispered. Don't say goodbye. Her eyes softened. I never left you, David. My heart was always here. And with one final breath, her hand slipped from his grasp. David broke. He held her to his chest, crying into her hair, feeling years of love, regret, and forgiveness crash over him all at once. Nora held her mother's arm, sobbing uncontrollably. The agents bowed their heads. When paramedics arrived and took her body, David refused to let Nora see. He wrapped her in a blanket and carried her outside, whispering gently, "She saved us. She saved you. She'll always be with us." In the months that followed, David rebuilt everything from the ashes: his home, his heart, his understanding of love. He told Nora stories about her mother's bravery, her sacrifice, her love so fierce it cost her life. Nora grew stronger, kinder, wiser. David became the father she needed more than ever, and Liana's name lived on as the woman who gave everything to protect the family she loved. The past no longer haunted them, it guided them, and every night, before Nora slept, she whispered into the quiet, "Good night, Mommy," and David whispered, "Thank you, Liana." The love she left behind saved him long after she was gone.